Three interesting things. Three interesting things. Three interesting things. And we're back.
I love the chant.
Back for another week of Three Interesting Things with your hosts, Justin and Miles.
Here I am.
And this is the show where we bring you three interesting things. This week we have, I think, a really excellent show. I know we say that every week, Miles, but this is going to be our best show yet.
It's always getting better.
I think so too. Every show is our best show.
Always our best show, yeah.
All right, so later on, Miles is going to talk to us about which athletes are the fittest, which I'm excited to hear about. We've got our guest on that will talk to us about. So far, I don't know much about it. It's called the bloop, so we'll find out when he comes.
Apparently, it's a scientific phenomenon.
And then I've got great news about fruit at the end of the show.
I think it's bad news.
No, it's great news.
It is not. You'll like it.
You'll like it.
I also need to tease the guest. Our guest today is Joseph Denny, and I have a story about him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So, I don't know, what was it, like a year ago? He created a rap.
I think it was longer than a year
ago. A year and a half ago. He's Jude's friend. He's probably 16 years old.
He was younger
a year
than
and a half ago. 15 years old. And he had a full-grown beard. And he was the youngest of all of Jude's friends. And he wrote this rap called Youngest Boy, Longest Beard. I don't remember exactly what the bars were. Maybe he'll give us a little sneak peek later.
Maybe so. Anyway, that's one of Jude's good friends, Joe Denny. He's on the show today. We're excited to have him and get him on here pretty soon. But there is one thing I needed to bring up, Miles, at the top of the show, and this was actually brought to our attention by the one and only Joe Denny that will be joining us later.
What was it?
Is that when we do our chant at the end of the show,
yeah.
Our intent was to do the chant from the beginning of the show backwards, but we've actually been saying it wrong this whole time.
We've been saying if you flip it backwards from forwards, it goes interesting three things instead of three interesting things, but we like it.
So we've been saying interesting things 3 at the beginning of the show, and
no, we've been
at the end of the show. Now I'm so confused.
Oh my god.
Anyway, we're gonna keep it how it was because obviously we aren't smart enough to figure out how to change it. Because I don't even know what the problem is.
Introducing the youngest boy with the longest beard that we know, Joseph Denny.
Come on in, Joe.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hello,
Joe. Welcome.
Happy to be here.
How's your day today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great. Thanks for being on. We're going to get to your interesting thing in a little bit. But before we do, I just wanted to ask you one question just to let the audience get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
So one of the things that I've always thought was interesting about you is that for a lot of your schooling, you've been homeschooled.
Yes.
And recently, over the last several years, you've been going to more, what's the opposite of homeschool? Is it called school?
Public school.
Oh, public school. Okay. So you've been going to more public school.
Yes, I have.
But I know that if you started going to public school later in life, I assume there was a lot of the stuff that you kind of missed out on or didn't learn about the day-to-day goings-on of public school. And I was curious if you had had any embarrassing or funny or interesting experience where you didn't know. Like, it was just like, oh, well, I never went to grade school, so I didn't know this is how things were done. And you kind of got yourself into a funny situation that way.
Okay, so this is a funny thing that happened to me at school. Not necessarily because I didn't know this about public school, just because I was an idiot.
Okay.
So
Good enough.
It's like first
Yeah.
2 weeks, right? First 2 weeks. I only have 3 classes this last year. And so I needed to go to the bathroom during my first period. And so I'm walking over and I had memorized all the bathrooms. The boys are on the right, the girls are on the left. I'd memorized that
Yeah.
because that's how it was downstairs.
Yeah.
And so I go to the bathroom and I walk into the bathroom and there's no urinals in there. And I'm like, wait a second, what's going on? This is so weird. But I'm like, maybe I'd never been in the upstairs bathroom before. So I was like, maybe the upstairs bathrooms are just different. They don't have urinals. So I go get in a stall, I do my stuff.
You actually went to the bathroom.
And then I walk out and this girl walks in, right, and just sees this 15-year-old boy with a beard standing there.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like, oh, crap, dude.
Did you say anything to
No,
her?
I just ran away.
You happened to walk out right before she walked in.
As I exited the stall.
So you got away with it. The perfect crime.
No, I didn't get away with it. No, I did not get away with it.
What happened?
2 periods later, Mr. Labrum comes to my calculus
Oh,
class and he's
no.
like, Joe, we need to
Oh
talk.
no.
And he's like, this girl came and told us that there was a dude in the
Oh,
girls' bathroom, and we pulled up the camera footage, and I was like, Mr. Labrum, it was on accident. I just didn't realize I So that's how I learned that upstairs the bathrooms are reversed.
That's a
Why
great
did they
story.
do that?
That's true. It's like they're trying to get
Yeah, they're
people to
like,
make a mistake.
no, I actually want people to go into the girls' locker room.
That's great. All right, getting on to the interesting things. We're going to start with Miles. Most fit athletes. Take it away,
Okay.
Miles.
Okay, first I have to explain to you what fit even means. So it is not just referring to physical strength or endurance, but also agility, coordination, balance, and the ability to like do complex movements.
Okay.
So that's what this scale is on. And this is a whole study and there's a bunch of experts behind it. And because I would not be able to do this. I don't have that big of brain, as we've demonstrated by the
I think we lost a lot of credibility with our friends.
That
We've
was
been
one of
doing
the
that chant incorrectly. Let's get
we
back to
misread the
Let's get back to
article. Number one is wrestling and MMA.
They're the most fit athletes.
Yeah, look at this picture.
That dude does look fit.
So this picture is a dude that is very big muscles. And it's because that they have to have so much endurance to put their hands up and block attacks for so long and like kick, and also they have to be strong enough to withstand those attacks that get put at them. Number two is boxing.
So really similar.
Yeah, very similar. And that just solidifies the claim that they have, It's like these are the two most similar sports and they're the two top sports.
Like because you have to be the toughest.
Yeah, you have to be the
The
toughest.
fittest.
Yeah.
I think MMA makes sense too because it's like a combination of like
Yeah,
tons of
that's what I
different
was
martial
thinking.
arts. Like you have to know all these different disciplines as opposed to just one.
And you use MMA more than anything. You use every part of your body when
Yeah,
you're fighting, right?
exactly.
Like in boxing. And I know, I mean, you box with your legs as much as with your fists, but yeah, MMA just seems like a real full body sport, right?
Yeah. And then number three is another full body sport. There's definitely a pattern because all of the full body sports are at the top. Number three is triathlons because you have to swim so far,
Huh.
which is super hard, like a mile swim for an Olympic. And then you have to bike for so long and you have to run for so long. And all of those things you would think, oh, maybe the swimmers are the best athletes. Maybe the runners are the best athletes. Maybe the bikers are the best athletes. No, it's all of them combined.
It's interesting too, and I wonder does anything about training because it seems like if you're MMA or boxing, you do a lot of strength training, but if you're a triathlete, you're doing a lot of cardio. So, I mean, I guess there's different ways to get into that fitness level.
And I was going to ask you guys if you could have chosen like one sport, what sport would you have chosen to be the most physical? The one with the most fittest athletes?
What would we have thought
Yeah,
before
what
you
would
told
you
us
have
the
thought?
answer?
Mm-hmm.
You might have wanted to ask us before you gave us the
Yeah, I
answer.
should have, but it doesn't matter.
I know what I thought of because triathlons was on there. There's like even bigger ones like decathlons or whatever where
Yeah.
they do like 10 or 15 different activities and
But
like
then, like kayaking, that's not a full body sport.
But what about endurance sports? Like, what about those 100-mile races? Aren't those the fittest people? If you could run 100 miles all at once?
You have to be so skinny.
probably couldn't lift very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't have to have like super good reflexes either. And you don't have to do complex things. It's all complex things. Swimming's complex, running's complex, biking's semi-complex, but just running 100 miles isn't as complex as all of them at once. So it makes sense.
Makes sense.
But I don't know. I feel like water polo should be up there because they just so much work.
I can't imagine.
Oh my god.
Water polo looks so exhausting.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Miles. Nice. Awesome. All right.
That's
We're
awesome.
going on
On
to
number
Jude
two.
for. Sorry. Going on to Joe for interesting thing number 2, the bloop.
The bloop. Okay, so I'll set the stage here, right? 1990s, right? 3 scientists, us of course, right? We have these probes in the deep ocean, okay, off the coast of Chile, between like Chile and Australia, middle of the Pacific Ocean, right? And these probes measure sound waves that ripple through the ocean, most of the time completely quiet, right? If you're
Is
listening
it
in,
true or it's a science
this is
fiction?
completely true.
Oh,
Completely
okay.
100% true. So most of the time you don't hear anything coming from these. It's silent, right? In the 90s, what's called the bloop happened. And it was this minute long, really loud noise. It was like when it went on for a minute and everyone was freaking out because everyone at that time period thought it was a biological noise coming from a creature. But the thing is that the sound was registered as coming from 4,000 kilometers away from the probes. Or, the biggest sea creature we know can do nowhere near that far
Mhm.
of sound wave
Huh.
transfer. So it would have had to been like a massive, colossal creature.
That's so scary.
It's terrifying. And so there were a lot of theories that there's some, massive creature hiding in the ocean making these noises. And it was only in the last 10 years that the new science is that it was massive glaciers breaking apart from Antarctica.
No way.
Yeah. So because of global warming, this massive chunk of ice cracked off of Antarctica, and that noise was the balloon.
That must have been so massive.
It was
crazy.
Especially since they didn't have anything like that until
Yeah.
the 20th century.
And it's just hard to imagine how big those are. Yeah, but no, I just thought it was super interesting. You know, the deep sea, right? There's so little we know about it, and
Mm.
just I can only imagine what hearing that without having the science that we have,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
So scary.
just hearing this
Scary.
massive noise.
I'm still scared about it. I don't trust all those scientists.
I think they're lying. I think they're lying to
too.
us.
They want to protect us from the kaiju that
Yes.
are coming through a portal on the bottom of the ocean.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Joe, for sharing. That was awesome.
Thank you.
All right, and I'll just finish up with my interesting thing, which was I heard that this sugar content in fruit has gotten way up in the last 20 years. And as soon as I heard that, it really resonated with me because I've always thought that peaches are way better now than when I can't remember peaches being so good as they are today. And so I did a little bit of research on the matter, and it's a little bit more complicated than that, but quite interesting. So it is true that throughout all of history, we have been breeding both fruits and vegetables to be sweeter generally than they were.
Vegetables even too.
Yeah,
What-
vegetables too.
I don't like a
Wow.
super sweet carrot though.
Maybe you haven't ever had one before. Like they're delicious. I love sweet carrots. They're really, really good. But so they have been breeding everything to be more sweet, and especially over the last 20 years. The best example is a plum. The average plum in the United States has twice as much sugar today than it did 20 years ago.
Are they even healthy anymore?
So that's the question, right? Like, oh no, now we can't eat fruit because it's got so much sugar in it. And the answer, unfortunately, is complicated. So it really depends on the fruit. Some fruits have gotten sweeter just because of global warming. Fuji apples, which are already a sweet variety of apple, they actually are sweeter now just because it's warmer where they're grown.
So they're able to produce like more
More sugar. Yeah, the longer they are in the sun, they produce more sugar.
Right.
The other thing to remember, so there are a lot of fruits that have gotten more sugary, either through that process or through selective breeding. But the problem with really sugary fruit is that it's really soft. And so they can't ship it because it gets so soft. So in
Oh.
fact, there are some fruits like strawberries. They said strawberries, the sugar content has actually gone down because they were getting so sugary that they couldn't ship them because they would just spoil.
That's really
Wow.
interesting.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
Anyway, so, and then of course, even though there is in a lot of fruit, there's a lot of sugar, it's still going to be better for you. I mean, it's not the same as eating a Twinkie, right? It's still got fiber in it. It has a lot of vitamins in it. And your body does need sugar. It needs glucose, the fructose in there. I mean, that's what gives us energy. Your brain needs a bare minimum of 120 carbohydrates a day, so like you have to have that stuff. So no, fruit's not bad for you. And even though it has gotten, in some cases, some of the fruit's gotten sweeter, a lot of it hasn't, and it's still a big and important part of our diet, gentlemen. So I invite you to eat fruit. Eat fruit. That's my message for today.
I will
Okay.
starting from today.
Yes.
I haven't.
I've never actually had these. What was it? Peach things.
Peach.
You should try one. They're really good.
Maybe I will.
Strawberry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
A
I'll remember that.
plume?
I'll write that down.
All right, that's it for us. And Joe is actually going to take us out.
Okay. Next week's guest is going to be Justin's first grade teacher, Dr. Bruce Banner. And finally, our quote of the week, as the great Usain Bolt always says, "It was really nice to meet you."
Because he's running away really fast.
Ooh.
Interesting things, 3.
Interesting things, 3. Interesting things, 3.
Right.
That was a good one.
All right.
Our best one yet.
And it always is.